Hello. Once again, I'm Eric Evian, the founder of IGRE Publishing and the lead designer of IGRE Publishing for Swordland RPG and Itty Bitty Quest, which is the game we've been talking about today. And this series of videos, this is part 3, we are discussing the IGRE tabletop role-playing game engine. It's specifically how we're going to be utilizing it in our game Itty Bitty Quest here. As you can tell, we now have a dungeon, we have a goblin, and we have a fellow representing our test character that we have built over the previous 2 videos. And we're going to get right into the subject of the current video, which is the combat abilities of the IGRE Publishing's tabletop game engine. So let's get right into it. As it stands, we have to completely revise and rewrite our index of monsters and creatures that your characters could encounter in any of our 2 tabletop games currently. However, we have enough of a guideline that we're going to be able to go through an example of combat just fine. In particular, we're going to show off the combat abilities of the system. So combat abilities are abilities that modify how your character operates in a combat encounter. So there's things that will add effects to the attacks that your character makes, or it'll be things that increase their movement, things to increase their health values, so on and so forth. Things that make your character more offensive or defensive or utilitarian in a combat encounter, and most likely will increase their survivability. So, much like the innate and general abilities described earlier, you always receive 1 combat ability at character creation, and then upon every level up you receive an additional combat ability. In addition to the combat abilities, there's also the magic abilities, which we will be discussing at a later date in the future once we've more hammered down the magic system that would be in use for the IGRE tabletop engine, and additionally the Swordland RPG and Itty Bitty Quest games. So we have a goblin that our fellow that we've made in the previous 2 videos has come across in the dungeon. He's traveling by himself, which is always a bad idea, but here we go. So when it comes to determining the initiative of a combat, you'd go off the finesse stat. So our guy had no bonus in finesse, so he'd just roll 1d4. And the goblin, for this example, also has a no benefit. Well, actually, we'll give him a +1 in finesse. The stats for goblins haven't been finalized yet due to how fast things are going in the industry lately. However, we'll say he has a +1 to his finesse. So the goblin would have a 6, and our fellow, he has a 3. So the goblin's going to go ahead and move first. For the sake of the argument, the goblin has a +1 in his attack value, or his attack stat. So when he goes to roll, he'd roll 2d4 in an attempt to attack my character here. For the sake of the matter, his armor rating, we're going to say, is at 2, as we're still working on that system. So he rolls a 3 off his 2d4, so he hits my character. He's using, we'll say, a short sword. The goblin does not have a bonus to his physical for this example, so he rolls 1d4, dealing 2 damage to my character here, who has 9 health. So my character for this example is down to 7 hit points at this point. Now that it's my character's turn, I'm obviously going to attack. Showing off the interconnectedness of the system, he has a +2 bonus in his physical stat. He has a +1 attack stat. And he's taken the combat training, which allows him to add the 1 from the attack stat, the 2 from the physical in addition to the standard you'd roll. So he has 4d4 in an attempt to hit the goblin here. So he's rolled 2 4s, a 1 and a 2. We're working on how quote-unquote critical hits are going to work in Itty Bitty Quest, specifically in consideration to the dice pool mechanics. For the most effect, they re-roll 4s. So he's got 3, he's got 8 for 11 right now, and an additional 2 damage, and another 2 damage for 4, so he's dealt 15 damage, which is going to be more than enough to kill a goblin in this example. So that's how your basic combat operates. So for combat abilities, they're obviously going to make things more kind of diverse, I guess would be the best way to put it in combat. So let's say this goblin has more than 15 hit points, so that didn't knock him out. However, this character chose the combat ability knockdown attack. So since I was successful in hitting this goblin, what I can choose to do is make an additional attack roll. Let's see here. 6, 10 is going to be more than enough to hit the goblin in this example. This goblin is going to get knocked prone. He's going to get knocked down. And he's going to have to spend his next turn getting back up and make his attack roll at that point. But it does give you some advantages in combat. There's a number of other combat abilities like that that will either say, again, we're going to roll for a pushback attack. We're going to hit the goblin. So we would push him back equivalent amount equal to your character's physical stat. Or there's throws. Woo. He's definitely hitting the goblin there. That would kind of essentially get the same effect, but you'd also get a knockdown as well. And those are a little bit more specialized. So there's quite a few different combat abilities that are going to modify how your character attacks, and you receive one of these each time you level up, so you can kind of stack some effects depending on the language used, and of course you'd be mixing and matching these to build your character the way you want them to run in these combat encounters. There's also some other combat abilities that would modify your character elsewhere. So say our fellow here can only move 20 feet before he's out of movement for a turn. If I take the combat ability Sprinter, that adds 10 more feet, so he'd have a movement of 30 now for this example. Another particular combat ability is called Vitality, which is handy. We kind of described how health works in Itty Bitty Quest in the first video. This character rolled 3d4 to get his initial health. So with Vitality, you would get an additional d4. So to generate his health on the next level up, in this example, we'd roll 4d4 instead of 3d4. So at level 2, this character, if he had taken Vitality, we have 9 and then 10, so he'd be up from the first level of 9 health, he'd be at 19 health now. So you can tell there's a lot of ways the combat abilities are going to modify how your character works and how healthy they are, how fast they can move, and other such things that'd be beneficial to you in a combat situation that you'd run into in Itty Bitty Quest or Swordland RPG. And as mentioned, there's also magic abilities that'd be discussed at a further point, but they're going to do similar things. They'll allow you to make multiple projectiles out of spells. They'll allow you to lessen the damage of the spells in order to be able to affect more enemies on the field. things along those lines, and we'll be unveiling those at a later point in time. So, as shown, that's going to be a wrap on what I'm able to unveil about the IGRE Publishing tabletop role-playing game engine at this current point in time. We are going to be in active development for the foreseeable future, getting ourselves back together and able to have games again. In addition to that, in the future, our next convention appearance is going to be MizCon in Missoula, Montana, Memorial Day weekend. So I'm definitely going to be there. I'm definitely going to be running Itty Bitty Quest here. I'm also fully intending to get my main flagship game, Swordland RPG, operational once more, and I'll be demonstrating that game as well. When it comes to the future of IGRE Publishing, our priority is, first off, we're going to be working on Itty Bitty Quest here, as it's a much simpler project to get out at this point, as Swordland RPG is going to need a considerable redesign with the situation as it currently is in the RPG industry. Also in the future, as you've seen in various posts from the IGRE Publishing official Facebook and Twitter, we're currently working on the Songs of Araya series of novels. Those are continuing. There is no effect from the fallout from the events occurring in the RPG industry right now. So you can expect those. We're also continuing work on the Elios campaign setting, which is the default setting for both Itty Bitty Quest and Swordland RPG. So you can expect all that to be coming here in the future. I'm going to be making regular updates from this point forward, so you can kind of keep tracking the progress as we progress in the future here. So for that, I'm very thankful for all of you that have been following along the last 10 years that IGRE Publishing has been around. And I am very much hoping that I will have things for you to have in the future here. Thank you for carrying on with me during this adventure. And I will be making sure that this is going to continue, and you will be able to have whatever it is you want, whether it's role-playing games or novels, anything along those lines. They will be available to you in the future here. And until that point, you're going to be seeing regular progress and updates from me guiding you along. In the meantime, I'm signing off. Thank you once again, and happy adventuring.